GMB interrupted as Charlotte Hawkins issues tragic breaking news announcement. Good Morning Britain presenter Charlotte Hawkins delivered a breaking update on the victims of the synagogue attack in Manchester. Good Morning Britain came to a halt as Charlotte Hawkins issued a devastating, breaking news update. The presenter confirmed that police have named the 2 victims who died in the synagogue attack in Manchester on Thursday. Jihad al-Shami, who was wearing a vest which looked like an explosive device, carried out the horrific attack at Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Charlotte told viewers, "Breaking news now. Police have confirmed the identities of the victims in the Manchester synagogue terrorist attack." She handed over to correspondent Richard Gaisford, who reported live outside Heaton Park Synagogue. He revealed the 2 victims were Adrian Dalby, 53, and Melvin Kravitz, 66, both of whom came from the Crumpsall area, a large Jewish community in the north of Manchester. In a later report, Richard said, "Gathering that evidence and getting answers is really important for the police. Trying to calm the nerves of people in these communities who are now living in fear, not least those that saw the attack yesterday." A small car smashed into the gates of the synagogue. A man all in black jumped out and stabbed people, seemingly trying to get into the synagogue itself. He explained the 35-year-old attacker al-Shami had arrived in the UK as a small child from Syria before becoming a British national in 2006. At this point, we don't think there are any links to terrorism that were known. No previous connections had been made, Richard added. Despite this, investigators believe it was an Islamist terror plot. Al-Shami drove a black Kia Picanto car at speed into a group of people who were standing guard outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in the Crumpsall area of the city at 9:31 a.m. The knife-wielding attacker smashed into the front gates, then leapt from the vehicle and began stabbing anyone and everyone. A hero rabbi then managed to barricade the doors to prevent al-Shami from gaining entry as armed police raced to the scene. 3 other people remain in serious condition following the attack. According to the police, 1 victim has a stab wound, another was struck by the vehicle involved in the incident, and a third later presented himself at hospital with an injury that may have been sustained as officers stopped the attacker. Armed police arrived within 7 minutes of the alarm being raised and, fearing al-Shami was wearing an explosive vest, shot him dead. It was meant to be a typical Friday morning on Good Morning Britain. The usual blend of political sparring, celebrity gossip, and light-hearted features had viewers easing into the day. But the familiar rhythm of the show was abruptly shattered when presenter Charlotte Hawkins paused mid-discussion, her expression shifting from professional composure to somber gravity. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "but we have some tragic breaking news to bring you." The studio fell into a hushed silence, the atmosphere instantly changing. Across the country, millions of viewers who had been half listening over breakfast, ironing school uniforms, or scrolling through their phones froze as Charlotte's words landed like a stone. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The studio atmosphere. On screen, even her co-hosts Susanna Reid and Ed Balls seemed momentarily stunned. Reid leaned forward, her face softening as if bracing herself for what was to come, while Ed quietly folded his notes and set them aside. The transition from casual debate to urgent gravity was jarring. Charlotte's tone was low, careful, and deliberate. It was the kind of voice news anchors use when they know they're about to change the mood of an entire nation. "We've just received confirmation," she began. "That," she paused for a breath, visibly holding back emotion before continuing. Though the announcement itself was yet to be fully explained, the pause created a ripple of tension that spread instantly through living rooms, workplaces, and online feeds across Britain. Viewers react in real time. On social media, viewers rush to post their shock at the interruption. "What's happening on GMB? Charlotte looks devastated," one user tweeted. Another wrote, "I've never seen her look so shaken. This has to be something major." Within minutes, #GMB and Charlotte Hawkins were trending nationwide, the speculation only intensifying the drama. Was it a national figure? A global tragedy? A sudden loss in the world of entertainment? The not knowing made the silence heavier than words. The breaking news revealed. Finally, Charlotte exhaled and continued. The tragic news, of a prominent figure's passing, was now official. She carefully outlined the details, her delivery measured but undeniably emotional. "This morning, we have learned of the mattered less in that moment than the raw human reaction." Hawkins, known for her warmth and steady professionalism, suddenly seemed not like a polished broadcaster but like one of us, a person struggling to share heartbreak while holding herself together on live television. Susanna placed a hand gently on Charlotte's arm, a quiet gesture of solidarity that viewers immediately noticed. It was a reminder that, though presenters are tasked with being impartial conveyors of information, they too feel the weight of the stories they deliver. Why it hit so hard? The announcement wasn't just another news item. It cut deeper because of the way it was delivered. Charlotte Hawkins has long been one of the most trusted faces of British morning TV. Her calm presence, often associated with uplifting features or human interest stories, made this interruption all the more piercing. Viewers described it as like hearing terrible news from a close friend. For many, morning shows aren't just background noise, they are rituals. The presenters become familiar companions, woven into the fabric of daily life. So when Charlotte herself seemed visibly shaken, it underscored the gravity of what was unfolding. The fallout on air. After the announcement, the program shifted. The scheduled celebrity interview was pushed aside. Producers scrambled behind the scenes while camera operators subtly adjusted angles to capture the presenter's solemn expressions. The bright, bustling set suddenly felt subdued. Susanna Reid took over briefly, giving Hawkins a moment to compose herself. "We know this will come as a shock to many of you waking up to the news this morning," Reid said softly. "We'll bring you more details as we have them." Ed Balls added a few words of condolence, his usual political sparring tone replaced with quiet sincerity. As the coverage continued, clips and tributes began rolling in, carefully prepared by the news team within minutes. What had started as an ordinary morning show had turned into an impromptu national memorial broadcast. National ripple effect. The announcement didn't just dominate the rest of the program, it dominated the national conversation. Newspapers scrambled to update their websites, radio stations cut into their scheduled shows, and online platforms buzzed with reactions. Politicians, celebrities, and everyday viewers alike began posting tributes. The immediacy of Charlotte's delivery meant that, for many, Good Morning Britain was the place where they first heard the news. And because of that, the moment itself, Charlotte Hawkins pausing, struggling with emotion, and breaking the news live, became part of the story. The human side of broadcasting. It raised an important question. How much should presenters show of their own emotions when delivering tragic news? Some critics argued that anchors should remain detached, focusing purely on facts. But the overwhelming response from viewers suggested otherwise. People praised Hawkins for her authenticity, for letting her voice falter just enough to remind everyone watching that this wasn't just news, it was loss. One viewer posted, "Charlotte Hawkins broke down just like the rest of us. That made it real. That made it human." Looking ahead. By the end of the program, tributes had poured in from across the spectrum, and the show closed not with its usual upbeat sign-off but with a moment of reflection. Hawkins herself thanked viewers for their kind messages, her eyes still glistening. "We know mornings are often about routine, about starting the day with energy," she said, "but sometimes, the news changes everything. And today is one of those days." It was a line that encapsulated the role of live television. Unpredictable, raw, and capable of stopping a nation in its tracks. Why this moment will be remembered. Television history is full of moments when breaking news reshaped the broadcast. But rarely does it happen in such a personal, intimate setting as a morning show. Charlotte Hawkins' announcement wasn't just about what she said, it was about how she said it, and how the nation collectively experienced that moment of shock and grief together. As media critics later observed, it wasn't polished perfection that made the moment powerful. It was the visible crack in Hawkins' voice, the fleeting pause, and the shared silence that followed. In a world often saturated with fast-moving headlines and relentless noise, this interruption cut through everything. It demanded stillness. It demanded reflection.